Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you guys are. Oh boy. Hi everyone. I know I've been a while. I've been away for a while, and I can't speak anymore. Merry Christmas, Ando! Welcome to my stream. My goodness, there's actually people here. Oh man. Okay, is the volume okay? I kind of reset things around because I realized that my last stream, my volume is pretty low. Trying to make the volume a bit more clearer. Please let me know. I don't have any assistant right now, so nobody can tell me if my volume is clear. Is it loud enough? Is it too low? Is the background sound too loud? Everything, please let me know. We have about 2 minutes before I start reading. Oh goodness, how's everyone? Just trying to break the ice now. I've been away for 2.5 months, I think. Trust me, that was not my intention. Uh, I was away for like 12 days. I was traveling in Japan for a bit. Came back and then just went back to work. And I mean, last week I had 2 days off, but I was just too tired. I wanted to read, but I was really tired, so I just went back to work after the holiday. And holiday is more often than not more tiring than being at home. Uh, yeah, all's good. I did something different this time. I went driving in Japan. I drove in Japan for the first time ever in my life. It was really fucking fun, except I hate driving in Tokyo. Tokyo is hell. Tokyo's traffic is just as bad as where I am. In Tokyo, because I went. Yes, I know. Welcome me back. Uh, we went outskirt, like about like 200 kilometers away from Tokyo, and it was a small town, quite a small town, a small city, and in the small city, everyone drive around 40 to 50 kilometers per hour on like regular streets, regular roads. So everyone's very chill. Um, and everyone actually yield like in like normal traffic conditions, like who's going to turn first, who's going to turn after. Everyone actually yield, everyone use the traffic use their signals. i I understand that using a signal shouldn't be a surprise, but everyone actually used their signals there in the small town. It was awesome. I would definitely love to go back driving in Japan, in smaller towns. Definitely not in Tokyo. Tokyo's everyone's just impatient. It's basically like you are walking in Tokyo and everyone is impatient. It's the same concept lies on the drivers in Tokyo, and it sucks, boy. Uh, but yeah. Anyway, I'm back. Very happy to be able to read. Uh, yeah, I didn't expect to read today. I should know. Actually, you know what? I actually wanted to read earlier today, but I just couldn't wake up. I, I'm so tired, and I just wanted to sleep, and I slept until 3 p.m. today, and it felt great. Um, yeah, so I ate my food and just chill for a little bit before I was like, hey, you know what? I can read for like 2 hours or maybe, however long that I can read. We'll see. But I feel great right now. Yeah, driving in Japan is really fun. In smaller towns, everyone follow the traffic rules. I didn't have anxiety driving in Japan at all in the smaller town, but my anxiety just went up high when I was in Tokyo. Even though I just drove in Tokyo for probably like what, fucking 4 hours max. Just in Tokyo itself. Yeah, like no, less than 4 hours for sure driving in Tokyo. Uh, but yeah, don't like Tokyo driving. Uh, but Tokyo trains. You know what's surprising? was that my last trip to Japan was in 2019. I used to go to Japan once a year since 2011. By 2019, I've been there for 10 times. And I was so familiar with the JR Circle line in Tokyo, the green line. And I mean, yellow line, red line. I'm pretty much like really familiar with those train lines that I thought this time around because I was barely in Tokyo at all, like probably like 1.5 day, 2 days max in Tokyo, and I thought that I wouldn't remember how to take the trains and everything, but in the end I help people, I help other tourists get to places because it like they just asked me a simple questions. Does this train go to Shinjuku? And I was like, Shinjuku's like, yeah, this train goes straight to Shinjuku. Don't worry about it. Like, if you stay on the yellow line, you get to Shinjuku faster than the green line. And after I told them that and sent them off their way, I was just like, I'm very amazed by myself that I could actually remember everything that well. That it's like kind of embedded in your brain, kind of. The parking, okay, so I can't tell you anything about the parking in Tokyo, but parking in Tokyo is definitely, as far as I know, it's very expensive. Like they go by minutes sometimes, and they go by like 10 minutes or 15 minutes or by 30 minutes. It could be like what 800 yen per 15 minutes or 800 yen, like 900 yen for half an hour. That the parking is expensive and um is it difficult to find parking? I think in Tokyo could be difficult, but it's not that bad because they don't. Most people don't drive in Tokyo, and if there's parking lots, there will be parking. There'll be enough parking for you to go in and park a car. But when I was in the outskirt area in Nagano, when I was in Nagano in the small city, in the small town, uh, parking is not a problem at all. Everywhere we went, because it's a small town and the buildings are no taller than 10 floors. Like I think the tallest buildings is like maybe 8, 10 floors in that whole area in Nagano, a small city, and every single building, like let's say if you say that, oh, I want to go eat like Koko Ichibanya, right? And usually if you're in Tokyo, if you want to find Koko Ichibanya, it's going to be in a mall or in a block, right? In a block, right? And if you want to go to the block, you just walk there or you take the train there or something like that. But when it's like in that small town that we were at, basically it's like, oh, do you want to go eat Koko Ichibanya? They have a whole fucking building there just for Koko Ichibanya, and outside the building there's plenty of parking. It's so easy to find parking in that small town where we were at. It was really really easy, and everywhere we go there's just plenty of parking. I don't have any problem with finding parking in that place. Even though in that small town the biggest transportation that they use is cars, like um instead of, like, there are buses, there are trains. I'm sure there are people using a lot of the trains and the buses, but because we have a car with us, we rented a car for the whole 10 days the whole 10 days we were there, that we managed to, in that small town area itself, we just managed to, like, go to places, don't have to worry about the parking, and just go. Like, we don't have to worry about, oh, will there be enough parking there, and all those things. Like, the only concern was the hotel that we were staying at. Some days when we go there, there's way too many cars there. We don't have enough parking, but somehow we'll still be able to find one parking available in the hotel parking lot. But it like there's just no worries about parking at all in the small town. If you drive to a small town, there's just plenty of parking everywhere. There's just so much space. You go to a small town compared to Tokyo or Osaka, everywhere is just so vast. There's the word that I can describe the experience being outskirt of, like being in the suburbans of, like outside of Tokyo in like a smaller cities, that just the space is so vast there. You just have so much space, you have so much walking space, you have so much cycling space, you have so much driving space. I mean, not really, the roads are very small, um but we have a fairly small car that we rented. Like, it's just fast. We went to the mountains one day, and there's so much. I've never been like I mean I've been to like Sydney before. I've been to the Blue Mountains before. That was the first time I see like such great like mountainous views back in like 2013 when I was in Sydney in Blue Mountains. But that was probably the last time I ever seen so much space and so much mountainous views until I went to Nagano, and we drove up the hill to Mount Tateshina, and the view is just so amazing. Like if you guys ever thought of going to Nagano, to stay in Nagano, to just visit Nagano, I highly recommend you to rent a car and drive. And the rental that we use is Toyota Rent a Car. So car is great. The petrol is super expensive, but for the entire trip that we were there, we rented the car for 10 days in total. We only, like literally, we traveled from Tokyo to the place where we went to in Nagano, about 188 kilometers away. Uh, it's like for the whole 8 days, we only refueled the tank once, like seriously once. And it's maybe the car that we got is like really good in like petrol management, but like it's expensive. How much is it was how much was 6,000 yen for a full tank. So it was expensive, but we only refueled once. And we drove almost, no, not almost, we drove every single day. Everywhere we went in the place that we stay at, we drove because we have a car, and also that's the best way to travel around that city, just driving from one space, from hotel to places. So it was just it was great. It was great driving. I would love to do it again, definitely 100%, just to visit that place again, just to go there and enjoy. I love it. I love driving in Japan. It's so good. Anyway, there was a lot of rambling. 10 minutes has gone of me talking about my trip. There was so much. There was so much in the trip, but I'll keep that for myself. You know, memories. Good and bad. But yeah, today, um, we can chat a bit more later after I finish reading or something. I don't know, but we'll see if I'm tired after I read. But so far, the book that we are reading, the book has really good font size, and um, all's good. I think. Yeah, just decided. Yeah, it's yeah. I'll definitely go back to Japan and drive to smaller cities instead of Tokyo. I like Tokyo, but eh. uh, yeah, there's certain parts of Tokyo that I really like. I went at, like on my last day, I made sure that I made my way back to Benten, the Bentendo, the shrine in Ueno Park called the Bentendo. I know it sounds like Nintendo, but um, I love going to Benten because Benten has like a lot of like um really good quality charms that you can buy, like amulets, and also they have a lot of like fortune reading stuff. And I'm like a bit of an addict when it comes to like fortune, um getting a fortune reading. I in Ben 10 itself I got three fortunes. I'm a bit insane, but it's okay. All is good. I got like what? I got like small luck, middle luck, and you know, daikichi, big luck, in one single um try. A bit too much, I understand, but yeah, you know, superstitious, like you know, spiritual stuff. Um, it was a plentiful experience trip. Uh, good 12 days spent. Like every day was something new. 100% ask me about Nagano one day if you guys want to go. Go get a car, go stay in where I stay, and go get the onsen experience. That is not like, you know, people always think about, oh, go to Fuji for the onsen experience. No, there's so much more. Like you can go to Nikko, you can go to Nagano, um, where I was, and the onsen experience there is just amazing as well. And I think the driving in the mountains, there's a route or route, however you want to say it, in the mountains of Nagano, like near to it's basically like going up to the mountain along the Mountain Tateshina. Um, there's a route called the Venus Line, and we just stuck on the Venus Line, and there was so much to see on the Venus Line. I yeah, it's just like the kind of views that you just like stood there and you look at everything around you is just like, like nature and mountains and trees and like the breeze. Everything just looks fucking beautiful. Like I would like to show you guys my like travel photos maybe later. But it's great. I just love it. It's beautiful. Driving is amazing in the mountainous area of Nagano. It's really really great. Like it's the kind of thing that you won't see if you're like taking the trains. So go drive in Japan. It's really great. Um, I didn't do any of the I didn't do any weeaboo stuff, like, I didn't do any nerdy, like, I didn't even go to see any, like, I didn't even walk into Akihabara. That's how insane it was, because the last time I went there in 2019, all we did was just we stayed around Akihabara, and every day we just walked through Akihabara. It's so much, we go to, like, animate, or, like, um, all those things. Like, we just, like, do a lot of, like geeky stuff. Hello. Looking great. Oh, everyone's wearing that outfit now for yeah, this one that outfit is really great. Yeah, I know, right? Uh it's so much. Oh my, I have the exact same top, and you know what I thought when I saw that top? And I was like, I'm going to use that for my dancer, because I feel like it fits so well as a dancer, isn't it? That outfit. I wanted to make like a Kagura, Kagura from Gintama. I want to make a Kagura cosplay with that outfit. It's fucking great. Oh, it's great outfit. Hell yeah. Anyways, if you guys notice I'm a fucking aura now, it's because I think I told you guys I got a gecko. And she's pretty much like a dark skinned gecko with like white, like her eyes, like my gecko has like eyeliner. I should show you guys on my Discord one day. I'll show you guys. I'll leave a photo of my gecko on my Discord later. Please remind me that, because I have like memory like a pea right now. Brain not working that well. But my gecko looks like almost like, not like this, but she she has like really nice like white eyeliner. Super awesome. Yeah, I have a Discord channel. Weren't you there? uh, Goodness. Yeah, I do. Uh, you can. I think it's like I link it on my profile. You can check it on my profile on my YouTube. I think I link it on my YouTube and my Twitch profile. Cool. Yes. Yeah, it's there. I generally I don't. It's not. It's not that. it's it's not that. Nobody really. Yeah, it's a date server. I'm just gonna like tell you guys first. Like it's a date server. I don't really use it that much. I just use it whenever I announce that I'm reading. So this is crazy. I always thought that you came in because you saw it on my Discord. So you really have a fucking notification on Twitch for this. Fuck. Thank you, Ando. That's dedication, bro. Um. Anyway, I'm sure this 15 minutes gone and I should be reading, but I'm not. Yeah, I'm a yapper for sure. I'm a yapper. Anyways, you know what? Shall we read? Volume all good? If all good, I'm gonna start reading in about 2 minutes time. Let me stretch, get my hydration on. I'll show you. Remind me of my gecko photo. I'll show you guys later. She's super pretty. I got a new tank for her recently as well. I'm gonna move her into the new tank, which is like way bigger and more space for her to walk around. But she doesn't really walk around. She just like eat and sleep, eat and sleep, eat and sleep. But yeah, she's super pretty. But I'm biased. Anyways, let's start reading. Today, I decided that after reading a lot of Kazuo Ishiguro book and after Clara and the Sun, I still have another book called, oh god, what was the other book that I wanted to read? Oh, The Unconsoled. So I thought I read all of Kazuo Ishiguro's book, but turns out that I did not, and I still have one book by Kazuo Ishiguro called The Unconsoled. So I'm gonna read that one day. And Kazuo Ishiguro's books are great algorithm for my YouTube channel, because you have no idea, like, go and check my highest views videos on YouTube. You'll be surprised how much views that was, and how, like, it's all Kazuo Ishiguro stuff. The last time I read Clara and the Sun, the videos are up for like a good few months now, 2 months now, and the views are just climbing every day. It's very surprising to see it like that. I just think there's a lot of like algorithm shit, and also Kazuo Ishiguro is like a Nobel Literary Peace Prize winner, so I'm sure more people know him than Natsume Sōseki, which is my true love, my one true love. I mean, I love both of them, but I think I relate more with Natsume Sōseki's works, I guess. So I do have a few Natsume Sōseki books left to read. That actually there's so much more of his books, but they just weren't translated. So it's a shame, because I wish that all of his books were translated so that I can read all of them. But the the very few that I read, I really love Natsume Sōseki. Anyways, let's stop yapping. I'm gonna put a timestamp on my video later on YouTube, because people always do that themselves, and I feel bad that they have to listen to me yap before they can get to the book. But anyways, this is the part of the experience of the stream, bro. I can't just cut off my yapping, because my yapping is just me. Anyways, today we are reading Kazuo Ishi. No, sorry. I think I'm just nervous. Today we are reading Natsume Sōseki's And Then, or in Japanese, それから. Okay? それから by Natsume Sōseki. Okay. Ready? Okay, let's go. Today we are reading Natsume Sōseki's And Then, それから. Chapter 1. Oh, do I not? Oh. Look, the book is bigger than my face. Right. Today we are reading Natsume Sōseki's それから. As hurried footsteps clattered past the gate, a pair of large clocks hung suspended from the sky. When the footsteps grew distant, the clocks slipped quietly away and vanished. Daisuke awoke. Turned to the head of his bed, he noticed a single camellia blossom that had fallen to the floor. He was certain that he had heard it drop during the night. The sound had resounded in his ears like a rubber ball bounced off the ceiling. Although he thought this might be explained by the silence of the night, just to make sure that all was well with him, he had placed his right hand over his heart. Then the feeling of blood pulsating correctly at the edge of his ribs, he had fallen asleep. For some time, he gazed vacantly at the color of the large blossom, which was nearly as large as a baby's head. Then, as if he had just thought of it, he put his hand to his heart. and once again began to study its beat. It had become a habit with him lately to listen to his heart's pulsation while lying in bed. As usual, the palpitation was calm and steady. With his hand still on his chest, he tried to imagine the warm crimson blood flowing leisurely to this beat. This was life, he thought. Now, at this very moment, he held in his grasp the current life as it flowed by. To his palm, it felt like the ticking of a clock, but it was more. It was a kind of alarm that summoned him to death. If it were possible to live without hearing this bell, if only his heart did not measure out time as well as blood, then how carefree he would be. How thoroughly he would savor life. But, and here, Daisuke shuddered involuntarily. He was a man so attached to life that he could scarcely bear to puncture his heart, calmly beating to the coursing of his blood. There were times when, lying in bed, he would place his hand just below his left breast and wonder what if someone gave one good blow with the hammer here. Although he lived in sound health, there were instances when his consciousness awakened to this indisputable fact of his being alive as a near miracle of good fortune. Lifting his hand from his heart, he picked up the newspaper beside his pillow. He reached from beneath the covers and with both hands spread out the paper. One on the left was a picture of a man stabbing a woman. He quickly averted his gaze and turned to another page where the school dispute was written up in large print. Daisuke read the article for a while, but soon let the paper slip from languid hands onto the covers. Drawing on a cigarette, he slid himself about 6 inches from the bed, picked up the camellia from the floor mat, and turned it over, drew it to the tip of his nose. His mouth, moustache, and nose were all but hidden in the flower, the smoke mingling with the petals and stamens curled out thickly. Then, placing the flower on the white sheet, he got up and went to the bathroom. He carefully brushed his teeth, taking pleasure, as always, in their regularity. He stripped and scrubbed his chest and back. There was a deep, fine luster to his skin. Whenever he moved his shoulders or lifted his arms, his flesh exuded a thin layer of oil, as if it had been massaged with balm that was then carefully wiped away. This, too, gave him satisfaction. Next, he parted his hair, which even without oil was perfectly manageable. Like his hair, his moustache was fine and gave him an air of youthful freshness, elegantly defining the area above his mouth. Stroking his full cheeks 2 or 3 times with his both hands, Daisuke peered into the mirror. His motions were precisely those of a woman powdering her face, and in fact he took such pride in his body that there had been the need he would not have hesitated to powder his face. More than anything, he disliked the shriveled body and wizened features of a Buddhist holy man, and whenever he turned to the mirror, he was thankful that at least he had not been born with such a face. If people called him a dandy, he was not in the least disturbed. To this extent had he moved beyond the old Japan. Some 30 minutes later he sat at the table. As he sipped his tea and buttered his toast, Kadono, the houseboy, brought in the newspapers, placing them neatly folded beside the cushion and beginning loudly. "It's really something, isn't it, Sensei? This business!" This houseboy always used the respectful term sensei in addressing Daisuke. At first, Daisuke had protested with a wry smile, but Kadono had always answered, oh yes, but sensei." And so Daisuke had been forced to leave the matter as it was. Eventually, it had become a custom, so that now, with Kadono alone, Daisuke felt no qualms about passing off as sensei. It was only when he began to keep a houseboy that Daisuke realized that there were no other appropriate forms of address to use towards a master like himself. I suppose you mean the school dispute? Daisuke calmly continued to eat his toast. Well, don't you think it's awfully exciting? You mean trying to get rid of the principal? Yes, that's it. He's going to have to resign. Kadono was gleeful. Do you stand to gain in any way if the principal resigns? Oh, come on, sensei. You shouldn't joke like that. A fellow doesn't get excited over something just because he might gain or lose. Daisuke continued to eat. Do they want to get rid of the principal because they really hate him? Or is there a question of profit involved? Do you know? No, I don't know about that. How about you, sensei? Do you know? No, I don't know either. I don't know, but there's no chance that people today would stir up all that trouble if they didn't think they were going to get something out of it. They're just making excuses. Is that right? Kadono's face showed some concern. With this, Daisuke abruptly put an end to the conversation. Kadono could understand no more. Beyond a certain level, no matter what anyone said, Kadono would unabashedly cling to his favorite. Is that right? It was impossible to tell whether one's word had registered with him or not. But precisely this uncertainty and the consequent absence of any need to stimulate the youth that appealed to Daisuke and led him to keep Kadono as a houseboy. He neither went to school nor studied, but spent all his time loafing. Why not try his hand at a foreign language? Daisuke might ask. Kadono invariably answered, Do you think so? Or, is that right? Never would he actually say that he would try it. Being as lazy as he was incapable of giving a more definite reply. Daisuke, for his part, having better things to do than educate Kadono, had let the matter drop at a suitable point. Fortunately, Kadono's body, unlike his mind, functioned well, and Daisuke could appreciate this point. Not only Daisuke, but also his old housekeeper was finding things much easier these days. Consequently, the old woman and the houseboy got along exceedingly well. They talked a great deal in the absence of their master. I wonder what on earth Sensei plans to do, Auntie? When you get as far as he has, you can do anything. No need to worry. I'm not worrying. It just seems he ought to do something. Well, he's probably planning to find a bride first, then to take his time looking for a position. That's not a bad idea. I sure wish I could spend my days reading books and going to concerts like that. You? Well, I don't care if I read or not. I just wish that I could play around like that. You know all those things were decided in your previous life. Nothing you can do about it. Is that the way it is? That was how their conversation ran. 2 weeks before Kadono joined Daisuke household, and the following exchange took place between the young bachelor master and the idle youth. Are you going anywhere to school right now? I was for a while, but I'm not anymore. Where did you used to go? Well, I went to all kinds of places, but I seem to get tired of them right away. You mean you get fed up easily? Well, yes, I guess that's it. So, you don't have plans to do much in the way of studying? No, not really. Besides, things aren't too good at home those days. The old woman at my place says she knows your mother. Yes, she used to live right near here. Then, your mother doesn't? That's right, she doesn't have much of a job either. She just takes in odd jobs to do at home. But business is bad everywhere these days, and things don't seem to be going too well. Don't seem to be going well. But don't you live in the same house? Well, yes, we live together, but I never really bothered to ask how she's doing. It's too much trouble. It seems like she's always complaining. How about your older brother? He works at the post office. Is that all in your family? I have a younger brother too. He's at the bank. You might say he's a step above the messenger boy. Then you are the only one sitting around, right? Yes, I guess that's right. And what do you do when you're home? Well, most of the time, I guess I sleep. Other times, I go out for walks. Isn't it a little embarrassing to sit around when everyone else is out earning money? No, not really. Your family must get along extremely well. Strangely enough, we never seem to fight much. I should think your mother and older brother would want you to get out on your own as soon as possible. You might have a point there. You seem to have an extraordinarily easygoing temperament. Is that how you really are? Well, I don't see why I should lie about things. So you're a completely carefree sort? Yes, I guess that's what you'd call me. How old is your older brother? He must be going on 26. Then he'll probably be looking for a wife, isn't that right? Do you plan to stay on like this even after he gets married? I'll have to wait and see. When the time comes, I'm sure something will happen. You don't have any other relations? There's an aunt. This one runs a freight business in Yokohama. Your aunt does? Oh, it's not really my aunt who runs it. I guess it's my uncle. Couldn't you get them to give you a job? The freight business must need a lot of people. Well, I'm basically lazy, so I think they'd probably say no. It doesn't help if you look at yourself like that. You see, the point is, your mother has asked the old woman at my place if we could find something for you to do here. Yeah, I heard something like that. And how do you feel about it? Well, yes, I'm planning on not being too lazy. You mean you'd rather come to my place? Well, yes, that's right. But it won't do if you're just going to sleep and take walks. Oh, you don't have to worry about that. I am strong at least. I'll fill the tub and do things like that. We have running water so you won't need to carry water to the tub. Then maybe I can do the cleaning. Daisuke. Such were the conditions under which Kadono becomes houseboy to Daisuke. Daisuke finally finished his meal and began to smoke. Kadono, who had been sitting with his back propped up against the cupboard, his arms around his knees, and decided that it's enough time had passed for him to try another question. Sensei, how's your heart this morning? He had learned of Daisuke's habit a few days earlier, and his tone was slightly bantering. So far it's all right. You make it sound as if it might be in danger tomorrow. The way you worry over your body, Sensei, you're going to end up really sick someday. I am sick already. Kadono only said, oh, and stared at Daisuke's healthy complexion and the ample flesh around his shoulders, visibly even through his clothes. After such conversation, Daisuke invariably felt sorry for this youth. He could only think that Kadono's skull was crammed with the brains of a cow, for all he could follow but half a block down the avenue of conversation that ordinary people walked. On a rare occasion when Daisuke so much as turned a corner, he was immediately lost. And of course, he could never set a foot, even on the bottom rung of a ladder upon which the foundations of logic were vertically laid. As for his sensitivity, it was sorrier case still. He gave the impression that his nervous system was a network of coarse straw. Observing the state of Kadono's existence, Daisuke wondered to what end the youth ventured to breathe and subsist. But Kadono idled away unconcerned. Not only was he unconcerned, he tacitly understood that this very idling conferred upon him a claim to kinship with Daisuke, and he was apt to behave more than a little triumphantly. Moreover, playing up his body's dog strength, he could close in on the sensitive points of his master's high-strung nature. Daisuke, in turn, regarded his own nerves as the tax he had to pay for his uniquely keen speculative powers and acute sensibilities. It was the anguish that echoed from the achievement of a lofty education. It was the unwritten punishment dealt to natural aristocrats, those designated by heaven. It was precisely by submitting to these sacrifices that he had been able to become what he was. Indeed, there were times when he recognized the very meaning of life in these sacrifices. Kadono could not begin to understand this. Kadono, wasn't there any mail? Mail? Oh yes, a postcard and a letter. I left them on your desk. Shall I get them? I suppose I could go over there. Given this uncertain response, Kadono got up and brought the postcard and letter. On the postcard was scribbled in light ink this exceedingly simple message. Arrived in Tokyo yesterday. Put up at above inn. Would like to see you tomorrow morning. On the front, the names of an inn in Urajimbocho and the sender Hiraoka Tsunejiro had been dashed off as carelessly as the message. So he's here already. He must have come in yesterday, Daisuke murmured to himself as he picked up the envelope which was addressed in his father's hand. His father first announced that he had returned 2 or 3 days before, that there was no particular hurry, but there were many things he wished to discuss, and Daisuke was to come as soon as this letter reached him. Then the letter to such desultory matters as how it had been too early for the cherry blossoms in Kyoto, how crowded and uncomfortable the express train had been, etc., etc. Folding up the letter, Daisuke compared the 2 pieces of mail with a peculiar expression on his face. He then summoned Kadono. Kadono, will you go make a phone call to my house? Yes, to your house. What should I say? That I have an engagement today. I'm supposed to see someone, so I can't come home. I'll come tomorrow or the day after. I see. To whom? The old man's come back from the trip, says he wants to talk to me, but you don't have to get him on the phone. Just give the message to whoever answers. Yes, I will. Kadono went out noisily. Daisuke left the morning room and went through the living room to his study. He noticed that it had been nicely clean. The fallen camellia had been swept away. He went over to the bookshelves at the right of the vase and lifted a heavy photograph album from the top. Still standing, he undid the gold clasps and began flipping the pages until he came to the middle, where he suddenly rested his hand. There was a portrait of a woman about 20 years old. Daisuke gazed intently at her face. And that was chapter 1. Man, I can still read somehow. Oh my god. Oh, cute. My gecko just walked out from her cave and now drinking water, it seems. And so will I drink water, auntie. I need to take a picture of her. Hang on. She's so fat. Yeah, the thing is, if I make any like sudden movement, she will like get alarmed and just ran back in to her little cave. I got a fat tail gecko and they move like in slow motion. It's very funny to see most of the time. Yeah, she's going back into her cave. Yeah, you came out for water. Hang on. Alright, let's continue. Sip of tea. Okay. We are currently reading Natsume Sōseki. And then, それから Chapter 2. Daisuke was thinking of changing and going to Hiraoka's inn when Hiraoka made a timely appearance. He casually rode the rickshaw right up to the gate. The voice that cried, "Here he is, here he is!" ordering the driver to lower the shaft, had not changed in the 3 years since two had parted. No sooner had he seen the old woman who met him at the door, and then he was explaining that he had forgotten his wallet at the inn, that he needed to borrow some change. This too was the Hiraoka of their school days. Daisuke went running to the door and all but dragged his old friend in. "How are things? Come in and relax." "Oh, I see you've got chairs," Hiraoka observed and threw his body heavily onto the easy chair. To judge from the way he handled himself, he set not a penny's value on his rather ample flesh. He leaned his shaven head against the back of the chair and looked around the room for a moment. "Not a bad house. Better than I expected," he praised. Without answering, Daisuke opened a cigarette case. "So how have things been?" "How? Why, I'll tell you all about it by and by. You used to write a lot, so I could tell how things were, but lately you haven't written at all." "I must owe letters to everyone I know." Hiraoka abruptly removed his glasses and pulling out a wrinkled handkerchief from his breast pocket, began to wipe them, blinking rapidly all the while. He had been nearsighted since their student days. Daisuke watched him intently. "But how about you? How have you been?" he asked, pulling the slender bows over his ears and holding them there with his bare hands. "There's nothing new with me." "That's the way it should be. There's been too much new with me." Hiraoka knitted his brows and began to stare at the garden. Suddenly, in an altered tone, he said, "Look, there's a cherry tree over there. It's just begun to bloom, hasn't it? The climate's so different here." The conversation had lost its touch of intimacy. Daisuke answered without interest, It must be pretty warm over there." With unexpected, almost excessive vigor, Hiraoka came back. "Yes, it's quite warm." It was as if he had been startled into a sudden awareness of his own presence. Daisuke looked at his face once more. Hiraoka lit a cigarette. The old woman finally appeared with the tea, putting her tray on the table and apologizing all the way that it had taken so long because he had put cold water into the kettle. While she chattered, the two stared at the red sandalwood tray. Then, seeing that they ignored her, the old woman gave a little self-conscious laugh and left the room. "What's that?" "The maid I hired. I've got to eat after all." "Gracious, isn't she?" Daisuke curled his rosy lip and laughed deprecatingly. "She's never served in a place like this before. It can't be helped. Why didn't you bring someone over from home? There must be a good many of them there." "Yes, but they're all young," answered Daisuke seriously. At this, Hiraoka laughed heartily for the first time. "Why? So much better if they are young. Anyway, it's not good to have somebody from home. Is there anyone besides that old woman?" "There's the houseboy." Kadono had come back and was talking to the old woman in the kitchen. "Is that all?" "That's all." "Why? You haven't gotten a wife yet?" The hint of a blush crossed Daisuke's face, but he quickly resumed his normal, nondescript manner. I would have let you know if I've gotten married, but how about you?" And he stopped abruptly. Daisuke and Hiraoka had known each other since middle school. At one point, They had been almost like brothers, especially during the year following their graduation. In those days, their greatest pleasure had been to confide in each other absolutely and to offer each other words of encouragement. On more than a few occasions, these words had been translated into action. Hence, they firmly believed that the words they exchanged, far from being a mere source of pleasure, had always held the possibility of some sort of sacrifice. As soon as one sacrificed, his pleasure immediately turned into anguish. But of this simple truth they went unaware. At the end of that year, Hiraoka got married and was transferred to a Kansai branch of the bank for which he worked. On the day of their departure, Daisuke went to Shimbashi station to see the young couple off. Clasping Hiraoka's hand, he cheerfully urged him to come back soon. Hiraoka said it couldn't be helped, that he had to put in his time. The words were tossed out carelessly, but from behind his glasses there were gleamed an almost enviable pride. When he saw this, Daisuke suddenly found his friend odious. He went home and shut himself in his study and spent the rest of the day brooding. He was half to take his sister-in-law to a concert, but he cancelled the engagement, causing her not a little anxiety. Hiraoka wrote regularly, a postcard announcing his safe arrival, news of setting up a household, and when that was over, accounts of his job, hopes for the future. Daisuke responded conscientiously to each other. Curiously enough, each time he wrote, he experienced a certain uneasiness. At times, when he no longer wished to put up with the discomfort, he stopped in the middle. Only when Hiraoka expressed some gratitude for what Daisuke had done in the past did his brush flow easily, allowing him to compose a relatively fluent response. In time, however, these exchanges became less frequent, dwindling from once a month to once every 2, even 3 months, until finally Daisuke did not write at all and began to feel apprehensive about that. Sometimes, just to rid himself of this tension, he moistened an envelope. But after 6 months had passed in this way, his mind and heart appeared to have undergone a change, so it no longer mattered whether he wrote to Hiraoka or not. In fact, after establishing his own household, he let a year go by before bothering to send his new address, and then only wrote because it was the season for New Year's card. Nevertheless, for certain reasons, Daisuke was unable to forget Hiraoka. He remembered him from time to time and occasionally tried to imagine how he might be getting along, but he never went so far as to inquire after him, feeling neither the courage nor the urgency to worry to that extent. In any event, he had let time slip by until suddenly 2 weeks ago he had received a letter from Hiraoka. In the letter, Hiraoka announced his intention of leaving the branch office soon and returning to Tokyo. He did not, however, want Daisuke to think of the move as one ordered by the office, implying promotion. He had other plans. He had decided to change jobs, and upon his arrival in Tokyo, he might have need of Daisuke's good offices. It was unclear whether the last remark was intended in earnest or simply added as a matter of form, but it was apparent that some drastic change of fortune had befallen Hiraoka. When he realized this, Daisuke was startled. Therefore, he was anxious to hear all the details as soon as he saw Hiraoka. Unfortunately, their conversation, once derailed, obstinately refused to return. If Daisuke seized an opportune moment and raised the topic himself, Hiraoka would parry, saying he would talk about it at length someday. The talk went nowhere. Daisuke finally suggested, "It's been so long since we've seen each other, why don't we get something to eat?" But Hiraoka still persisted with his "one of these days, there's more time," until Daisuke simply dragged him to a Western-style restaurant nearby. There, the two of them drank a good deal. When they agreed that as far as eating and drinking went, they were the same as ever, the ice was broken at last. Daisuke began an animated account of an Easter celebration he had seen 2 or 3 days before the St. Nicholas. The festival had begun at midnight, when all the world was asleep. After circling a long corridor of worshippers entered the sanctuary and were greeted with thousands of lighted candles. A procession of robed priests passed on the other side, their black shadows looming against the stark walls. Hiraoka listened with his cheeks resting on his palms, his eyelid red from behind his glasses. That night, around 2 o'clock, Daisuke walked alone along the wide avenue of Onari, over the tracks that ran straight through the midnight darkness until he arrived in the Ueno woods. There, he stepped into the midst of cherry blossoms lit by streetlights. "It's nice, you know. Cherry blossoms at night without a soul around," he said. Hiraoka emptied his glass without a word. Then he spoke, with a touch of pity. "It must have been nice, though. I've never seen it myself. As long as you can go around doing things like that, you are pretty lucky. Once you get out into the world, it's not so easy anymore." Hiraoka seemed to be looking down from above at his friend's inexperience. But for Daisuke, it was not so much the content of the response, but the tone that was absurd. As far as he was concerned, that Easter night counted far more than any practical worldly experience. So he answered, "I think there's nothing more worthless than this so-called worldly experience. All it can do is cause pain." Hiraoka widened his drunken eyes just perceptibly. "It sounds like your thinking's changed quite a bit. Wasn't it your idea that this pain becomes good if bitter medicine later on? That's just a theory I had when I was young and stupid. I gave in to all those conventional proverbs and spouted off nonsense. I don't know how long ago I tossed that one out. But you're going to have to get out into the world soon again, right? You won't get away with this kind of thinking then." "I've been out in the world for some time now. It seems to me that, especially since we went our separate ways, my world had grown much bigger. It's just a different kind of world from the one you went into." "Oh, go ahead and brag. You'll have to give in sooner or later." "Of course, if I find that I'm starving, I'll give in right away. But why should a person who doesn't have any once in a moment strain to taste these inferior experiences? It would have been like an Indian buying an overcoat just to be ready for winter." For an instant displeasure flickered at Hiroaka's brow. Gazing ahead with his reddened eyes, he puffed at his cigarette. Daisuke, thinking that he might have gone too far, resumed in a more measured tone. "There's a fellow I know who doesn't know the first thing about music. He's a school teacher, and he can't make it teaching at just one place, as he moonlights at 3, maybe 4 other places. You can't help feeling sorry for him. All he does is prepare a lesson. Does is prepare a lesson, dash off into the classroom, then move his mouth mechanically. He doesn't have time for anything else. When Sunday comes around, he calls it a day of rest and sleeps for the whole day away. So even if there's a concert somewhere or a famous musician from abroad performs here, he can't go. In other words, he's going to die without ever having set foot into the beautiful world of music. For me, there's no inexperience more wretched than that. Experience that's tied to the bread might be sincere, but it's bound to be inferior. If you don't have the kind of luxurious experience that is divorced from bread and water, there's no point in being human. You're probably thinking that I'm still a child, but in the luxurious world where I live, I am senior by years." Tapping the ashes from his cigarette, Hiraoka said in a low, dark voice, "It's fine if you can stay in that kind of world forever." His heavy words seemed to drag behind them a curse upon plenty. The two went outside, drunk. Because of the strange argument they had begun under the impetus of alcohol, they had gotten nowhere with the real business at hand, that is, Hiraoka's situation. "Let's walk a little," Daisuke suggested. Hiraoka was apparently not as busy as he claimed, for with a few half-hearted protests, he strolled along with Daisuke. Daisuke tried to direct his steps towards the quiet side of the street where they might talk more readily, and eventually the conversation came around. According to Hiraoka's account, he had tried working quite hard when he was first transferred. He had done considerable research on the economic conditions of the region in order to learn his new job well. In fact, he had even thought of doing, if given permission, a theoretical study of actual business practices, but his position was not high enough, and he had to put away his plans and await a future opportunity. Even so, he had tried presenting a number of suggestions to the branch manager, though they had always met with cold indifference. If he so much as mentioned any sophisticated theory, the manager became peevish. His attitude seemed to be, what could a greenhorn like Hiraoka possibly understand? But the manager himself knew nothing. As Hiraoka saw it, his superior was unwilling to deal with him not because he, Hiraoka, was unworthy, but because the manager was afraid. And this was the source of Hiraoka's chagrin. More than once they had verged on a clash. As time passed, however, Hiraoka's annoyance began to fade and he increasingly felt uncomfortable in his surroundings. He made an effort to feel that way, and accordingly the branch manager's attitude toward him changed bit by bit. There were even times when he took the initiative to ask Hiraoka's opinion. Since Hiraoka was no longer fresh out of the university, he was careful to avoid complex issues that would be incomprehensible, hence awkward for the manager. But it is not as if I went out of my way to flatter him or manipulate him, Hiraoka emphasized. Daisuke answered solemnly, no, of course not. The branch manager began to show concern for Hiraoka's future. He even promised, half-jokingly, that since it was his turn to return to the main office, Hiraoka should go with him. By that time, Hiraoka was quite experienced and had gained considerable trust. His social circles had widened, and he no longer had time for study. At that point, he had begun to feel that study would only get in the way of practice anyway. Just as the branch manager confided everything to him, so Hiraoka had trusted in a subordinate named Seki and consulted him on various matters. This Seki became involved with the geisha and ended up embezzling company funds. When this was exposed, there was no question of Seki's dismissal, of course, but due to circumstances, it seemed that even the manager might be placed in an awkward situation. Hiraoka had shouldered the responsibility and submitted his resignation. This was the gist of Hiraoka's story. Daisuke thought that Hiraoka might have been urged by the manager to tender his resignation, to judge from his last words. The higher you get in a company, the more you can get away with. If you think about it, it's really too bad that a fellow like Seki had to get fired for embezzling a piddling sum like that. So, the branch manager got the best deal of all? Daisuke asked. I guess you could look at it that way. Hiraoka's response was slurred. What happened to the money that the fellow took? Oh, it didn't amount to much, so I paid it off. I'm surprised you had it. It looks like you were getting a pretty good deal too. Hiraoka's face turned bitter, and he darted a sharp glance at Daisuke. Even if I was, it's all gone. Now I'm having a tough time just making ends meet. I borrowed that money. Oh, Daisuke's response was calm. He was a man who did not lose to his normal tone of voice under any circumstances. And from this tone, subdued but no less apparent, there emerged a note of leisure. I borrowed from the manager to cover up that hole. I wonder why he didn't lend to this fellow Seki himself. Hiraoka did not answer, and Daisuke did not press the issue. The two walked in silence. Daisuke guessed that Hiraoka had not told at all. Hiraoka had not told all, but he knew he did not have the right to take another step forward in pursuit of the truth. Furthermore, he was too much an urbanite to have his curiosity aroused over something like this. Daisuke, who lived in the 20th century Japan, Daisuke, who had barely reached the age of 30, had already arrived at the province of Nil Admirari. His thinking was hardly so unsophisticated as to be shocked by an encounter with the darker side of man. His sense was hardly so wearied as to take pleasure in sniffing at the hackneyed secret Hiraoka might harbor, or from another angle, one might say they were so fatigued that stimuli many times more pleasurable could not have satisfied them. Thus, had Daisuke evolved in his private, distinctive world, which bore almost no resemblance to Hiraoka's, parenthesis, it is a regrettable phenomenon that behind every evolution, past and present, lies regression. But Hiraoka knew nothing of Daisuke's development. He seemed to regard him as the same naive youth from 3 years ago. If he were to bare his soul before this little master and confide to him all his weaknesses, it might be like a farmhand tossing horse manure before the startled young lady at the house. Better not take such a risk and incur Daisuke's displeasure. This was how Daisuke read Hiraoka's thoughts. It seemed to him stupid that Hiraoka walked along without answering him. Sorry. To the extent that Hiraoka regarded him as a child, perhaps even more so, Daisuke had begun to view Hiraoka in the same light. But when the two resumed their conversation, some 2 or 3 blocks later, not a trace of this feeling showed. So, what are you planning to do from now on? Well, maybe all the experience you have built up, it would be best to stay in the same business? Well, with all the experience, sorry, well, that would depend on the circumstances. Actually, I've been meaning to talk it over with you. What do you think? Is there a chance I could get something in your brother's company? I'll ask him about it. I have to go home anyway in the next 2 or 3 days, but I wonder if there's anything in the business. I'm thinking of trying the newspapers. That might not be bad either. The two walked towards the streetcar stop. Hiraoka, who had been watching the top of the train approaching in the distance, suddenly announced that he was going to take it. Daisuke assented without attempting to detain him, but neither did he make any move to part. He walked on to the red pole marking the stop. Then he asked, "How's Michiyo-san?" "She's the same as ever, thanks. She sends her regards. I was going to bring her today, but the train's ride must not have agreed with her. She was complaining of the headache, so I left her at the inn." The streetcar came to a halt before the two. Hiraoka started to hurry toward it, but stopped at Daisuke's warning. It was not his train. That was a shame about the baby. Yes, it was too bad. Thanks for your card. It might as well not have been born if it was going to die. And since then? No, nothing yet. There's probably no chance now. Her health isn't too good. Well, if you're gonna move around like this, it's probably easier not to have a kid. That's true too. Maybe if I were single like you, it would be even better, more relaxed. Well, why not become single? God damn, Daisuke. Don't kid me. Anyway, my wife keeps wondering if you have gotten married yet. The streetcar arrived. And that was chapter 2 of それから by Natsume Sōseki. God damn, Daisuke. Why don't you be single then? Oh. Oh, it's too good. I missed everything out. My gecko is like going into the water and everything. Just like having fun right now. Yeah, she doesn't come out often. When she does, she's like just walking around looking at things. I think I want to move her into her new enclosure soon. She can have more place to walk around about. Sorry. Yeah. Oh yeah, I do have to feed her today. She eats like once every 3 days. I think that's why she's walking around about. She's like, hey, it's time for food. Okay. This is not bad. This reading is pretty smooth so far. I think I can do like 2 more chapters maybe. We'll see. Okay. Alright. Let's go. We are currently reading それから by Natsume Sōseki, Chapter 3. Daisuke's father, Nagai Toku, was old enough to have seen the battlefield during the restoration, but he was still in robust health. After quitting the civil service, he had entered the business world, and while trying his hand at this and that, money had seemed to accumulate naturally, until in some 14 or 15 years' time he had found himself a wealthy man. Daisuke had an older brother named Seigo. After finishing school, he had gone straight into a company with which his father had ties, so that by now he held a position of considerable authority. He had a wife, Umeko, and 2 children. The older of these was a boy, Seitaro, now 15 years of age. The girl, Nui, was 3 years younger. Besides Seigo, there was an older sister, but she had married a diplomat and now made their home in the West. There had been another brother between Seigo and the sister, and still another between her and Daisuke, but both of them had died young. Their mother was dead as well. Such was the composition of Daisuke's family. The married sister and Daisuke, who had recently set up his own household, were gone, so that left 5 people, including the children, in the main house. Once a month, without fail, Daisuke went home for money. He lived on money that could be specified neither as his father's nor his brother's. When bored, he went more frequently. He would tease the children, play a game of Go with the houseboy, or engage his sisters-in-law in the theater talk. Daisuke was fond of his sister-in-law. Hers was a character in which temple mannerism and Meiji modernism was ruthlessly patched together. Once, she had gone to the trouble of ordering an inordinately expensive piece of brocade with an unpronounceable name through his sister in France. She had cut it out with 4 or 5 other people to fashion into obi. Later, when it was discovered that the material had been exported from Japan, the family had a good laugh. It was Daisuke who investigated the matter by checking the display cases of Mitsukoshi. Umeko also liked Western music and was easily persuaded to accompany Daisuke to his concerts. At the same time, she showed an unusual interest in fortune-telling, idolizing Seki Ryushi and a certain master Ojima. On 2 or 3 occasions, Daisuke had tagged along in a rickshaw to keep her company on her visits to these fortune-tellers. These days, Seitaro was completely absorbed in the baseball, and sometimes Daisuke would toss him a few pitches. He is a child with a peculiar ambition. Every year, at the beginning of the summer, when all the hot potato vendors converted into ice parlors, Seitaro liked to be the first to run over and buy ice cream, well before the first hint of perspiration. When there was no ice cream, he contented himself with ice and still come home triumphant. Lately, he was saying that he wanted to be the first person to enter the new sumo wrestling hall as soon as it was completed. Once he asked if Daisuke knew any wrestlers. Nui was given to answering everything with, "I'm warning you, you better watch out." She also changed her hair ribbons several times a day. She had recently begun violin lessons, and as soon as she got home, she would practice what she had learned, producing saw-like noises. But she would never play if someone was watching. Since she shut herself in her room and squeaked away, her parents thought she must be quite good. Daisuke was the only one who would ever peek in on her. At times, she would scold, "You better watch out." Daisuke? Daisuke's brother was often away from home. When he was busy, the only meal he took home at home was breakfast. The children had no idea what he did with the rest of his day, and Daisuke was equally ignorant on this point. In fact, he had decided that it was not preferable not to know. He had decided that it was preferable not to know. As long as it was unnecessary, he did not probe into his brother's outside activities. Daisuke was enormously popular with the children, reasonably so with his sister-in-law. With his brother, he could not tell. On the rare occasion when they met, they exchanged stories about their experiences with women. They talked perfectly nonchalantly, like men